Dave Kelley, President and CEO of Chakana Copper. Chakana Copper is a company that's made a very important copper, gold, silver discovery in Peru. We put out the first resource on that discovery this January, and it contains 191,000 ounces of gold, 11.7 million ounces of silver, and 130 million pounds of copper. And most importantly, it's at an overall copper equivalent grade of 1.8. So we have very good high-grade mineralization starting at surface. We're in an active mining district. There's plenty of processing options in that district, and we're excited to continue the exploration because the upside potential is exceptional, but we now have a very important high-grade resource that we can start looking at developing.
David, thanks for coming back on. Right, copper, great thesis to be in. The markets suck at the moment. You along with everyone else, have been hit hard. But the good news is you raised some cash, $6.25 million recently. So now it's a question of what are you going to do with it and how are you going to create accretive value with it?
Yeah, that's right, Matthew. You know, we do have money in the bank, and that's good. We're in the very final stages of permitting the south side of the project that has, in my opinion, some of the most exciting targets yet to test on the project. And you know, this is a project that has exceptional targets. It's tourmaline breccia pipes is what hosts the mineralization we've defined to date in the resource, but there's also other types of mineralization, and we have a disseminated gold target on the south side that's absolutely enormous. There's a silver system on the south side that had previously been drilled by Buenaventura that we know is going to host nice high-grade silver mineralization, and then we have more breccia pipes down there. So the exploration upside is exceptional. We've got the money in the bank from the money that we raised, and we're in the final stages of the permitting. So that's going to open the door to testing the exploration upside. And then at the same time, we're initiating studies on the resource. We've just started a geometallurgical study on the high-grade zones within the existing resource, and that's going to open the door to doing more studies like engineering studies and that type of thing.
Right, okay, but given the market conditions, you're going to have to make some decisions, right? You've got a lot of choice. You know, you mentioned copper, gold, silver. You mentioned, you know, different targets that you can go for. But you're going to have to make some choices about what's going to get you that traction in the marketplace, especially right now when lots of companies putting out announcements, press releases, and the market shrugging its shoulders. So what are you going after first and why?
Yeah, and I think that's, that's what differentiates us from a lot of the junior companies out there. A lot of the companies are explorers. They have, nice land positions. They've got great potential, exploration potential. But we are one of the, smaller percentage of junior companies that has a resource in the ground. It's a new resource. This is not a project that's been, around the block 10 times and we're just dressing it up. This is a new discovery. It's high grade. It has equal value precious metals to copper, even though the copper grade's right at around 1% if you look at the overall grade in the sulfide zone. So it really has some exceptional qualities. It's a great time to be investing because we do have money in the bank. We do have a high grade resource. We're in a great location. You couldn't ask for a better location to be in Peru. Our social relations are really exceptional. We just finished completing the construction of the second floor of a community building in one of the nearby communities, and we're working very closely with those communities. They're very important to us, and we're important to them too. We have a great win-win situation going on there. So to answer your question, the resource is important. It needs to be moved along the path towards development. We've got the exploration potential that will play out when the permits present the opportunity to get down there and drill, but the resource is really number one for us right now.
Okay, so remind me where you are with the resource and what you think you're going to be able to do with the money available, or certainly the money that you're allocating to advancing that, and why you think that's going to get a reaction in the market.
Yeah, you've got to go down that path. We've got the resource. We've done some preliminary metallurgical work, but we're really ramping up our knowledge of the mineralogy, the zoning. As you know, these deposits they have very, very strong precious metal enrichment in the top parts of the breccia pipes, and as we go deeper, they turn more into kind of pure copper, silver with a little bit of gold there, but not to the extent that we have in the top part of the breccia pipe. So it's really critical for us to understand the mineralogical zoning, because that will then feed into potential processing options and even mining options. How will you mine these breccia pipes? Will you have multiple pipes at the same time? Will you blend the ore? That type of thing. The other nice thing about Peru is they do have what's called a small miner's permit. It allows you to produce 350 tons a day. You can use external processing facilities, so you don't have to build your own plant and tailings facility initially. That can come with time as you expand the operation. But that's a very well-established route to production in Peru. A lot of companies take advantage of that. You start small, you build up over time, and the permitting timelines are much shorter for obtaining a small mining producer permit than it is to go, the traditional way with upscale production. So we're working on that from a legal standpoint. We're looking at options for processing. We're studying the resource that we have, and we're advancing this in a way where we would like to be able to see production happen in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay, but isn't that kind of like a choice of last resort, in the sense that you typically like to actually, get the project built up at scale, demonstrate to the market that there's a lot of copper there, there's a lot of gold, silver there, and get funded in that way that explorers, do, albeit dilutive. It kind of shows that you're creating value. When you're saying, right, small scale production could help us. It could help us because of the position you find yourself in at the moment, because of the way that the market is. Is this a new thought, or was this always the plan?
Well, it's somewhat a result of what we ended up finding in the resource. We have really exceptional grades. The overall grade, as I mentioned, of the project, 1.8% copper equivalent. Half of that, the 3.3 million tons, sits at 2.75% copper equivalent. And even within that, if you recall the massive sulfides that we've encountered inside these breccia pipes, we had an intercept last year that we reported 12 meters of 27% copper and a kilogram of silver. I mean, that's just absolutely exceptional. So when you have zones within these breccia pipes that are super high grade, that's a different option. It's not like we've got a giant low grade deposit and we're trying to make it even bigger just to make it look better. This project presents itself with many different options, and these high grade zones in an active mining district near surface, they're just waiting to be developed. So I think that's a real positive attribute that we have for the project. It brings in cash flow, it attracts capital, and we still have the great tier 1 exploration upside potential. That's why Goldfields is there, right? And Goldfields has been a great partner for us. They put in $12 million since we started, and they're super excited about this south side potential. They still see tier 1 exploration upside potential here. So we've kind of got the best of both worlds right now.
Okay, talking of Goldfields, they put a lot of money in so far, and what do they expect to see with this next round of drilling to actually say, one, we want to hang on to this, we're not going to dump stock into the marketplace, we're either going to invest more money, whether it be at company or asset level? I mean, how do you kind of secure their continued involvement in this?
Well, one of the things they're super keen about, and they have really been since, we first got the property scale soil results, is what we call the mega gold anomaly. This is a huge anomaly. It's about 2 kilometers across by 1 kilometer in the other direction. It's one of the biggest and strongest gold anomalies I've ever seen in my career. And my background is as an exploration geochemist, and I've done literally hundreds of geochemical surveys. So this is a really important feature. It's a different type of signature than we get on the north side, which are breccia pipe, exposed breccia pipes. Each breccia pipe has its own kind of geochemical pattern. You can very easily pick out the individual centers of mineralization on the north side. On the south side, it's just one very, very large geochemical anomaly. It's also anomalous in molybdenum and tin, which indicates more of a reducing environment. We don't know how much copper we might find in this feature, but it's certainly very robust with the potential for gold. On the southeast side of that, at a higher elevation, we have a high sulfidation zone that's been proven with the hyperspectral mineralogy that we've done. That's been previously drilled by Buenaventura with some very high silver grades. And a very attractive host rock sequence. So that's another standalone target that sits to the southeast. And then on the southwest side of the big mega gold anomaly is what we call the Compañero breccia complex. Multiple breccias. We've channel sampled those breccias. We've gotten 14.5 grams of gold in channel samples right on the top of breccia. The base of the breccia pipes are stained with copper oxide. So we know that those are very similar to the high grade breccia pipes on the north side. So what is it going to take for Goldfields to maintain their interest? Having discovery success in these three zones is going to go a long way to to demonstrating to them that their investment has been a good one, and their patience is going to be rewarded.
Right. And then the eternal question, I know we keep coming back to it, but the markets change, thinking changes. Like Goldfields is a big holder in this project, as a percentage. And that can be seen as a kind of millstone around your neck in terms of liquidity, in terms of expansion, in terms of getting other meaningful companies involved with this and to help with the capital side of things. So how are you going to change that dynamic? Do they want to change the dynamic? And what have we got to look forward to on that front in terms of helping the kind of balance sheet and liquidity at the same time?
Yeah, Goldfields, their only right is to maintain their equity interest. They're right at about just under 17% equity ownership in the company, and they have the right to maintain that in future equity financing. So that's the only right they have. They can't block anyone from coming in. They don't have a first right of refusal on the asset or anything like that. So we were very adamant about it being that way, and they totally understood. I think there's room in the register for another mining company. Goldfields, they're a very, very successful company. They're in the middle of the merger transaction with the Yamana, which looks to me like that's going to go forward. And they're still investing in junior companies. If you look at what they've done with Torque Resources down in Chile, very aggressive, very similar investment to the way they invested in us. So they're still being aggressive, and you have to be. Those, especially the majors, they've got to be aggressive. You can't sit around and wait for a multi-million ounce deposit to fall in your lap. You've got to get out there, and you've got to be early, and they've done that. Now, will this project reach their threshold? I certainly think there's potential for it. They believe that there's potential for it, but you've got to do the work, right? So what if we do the work and it doesn't meet their threshold? It meets the threshold of becoming a new operating mine in Peru? That's still a great outcome for our shareholders, and that means that whoever's number 2 in the share register will become number 1 if Goldfields were to step away. So we still have to do the work to see where this project's going to fall. I'm absolutely convinced we've got enough to build a mine with just the high grade resources we've got now. All of those resources are open at depth, as you remember, Matthew. We've got 6.7 million tons now, but they're open, so that's going to continue to add tons. We still have a lot of exploration to test, even on the north side. We had a round of drilling this year, limited in meters, again, conserving cash, so we have money to go to the south when we get that permit. And, we had a lot of really, really interesting results. We drilled a ton of hydrothermal breccias, different types of breccias. We're still trying to understand the full scope of this system. It's a giant mineral system. Giant mineral systems take time to understand and to figure out. The drilling we did this year was very important in terms of helping us understand the full scope of this mineral system, and we're putting that learning to good use.
Right, and so just you did mention permits. So can you just give me a bit more detail on that one? Because I'm just trying to understand how long that's going to take. Because I know you're advancing the conversations, and you've been responding to the Ministry of Energy and Mines and the National Water Authority. But how long will that take to kind of? Because you need that to be able to move forward on a number of fronts, right? So where are you with it?
Yeah, so the permit on the south side is well advanced. We're in the very final stage. It's a 3-stage process, and we're in the very final step of the second stage. We've had 2 rounds of observations from the ministry. We've responded to both of those rounds, those observations, and the ball is back in their court. They have 30 days to approve the environmental certificate, which concludes stage 2, and then we move to the final stage. And we're 3 weeks into that 30-day period. The last time they had a 30-day period, they took 75 days. Which was disappointing. But the good thing about Peru is things are happening, right? I mean, things are moving through the process. There's a very good regulatory process. They have very strong environmental laws there, and we're moving through that process. It's slower than we'd like. There's lots of reasons for that. But the fact of the matter is things are getting done. And once we get the approval of the environmental permit, we're going to separate the south area into private land, which is 2/3 of the area, and community land. We're going to permit the private land first, and if we're able to do that, that's going to dramatically bring forward the final granting of the drilling permit in the mega gold anomaly in this La Jolla silver high sulfidation zone, and put those two together. There's plenty of drill targets in there, and we can get started on that sooner while we're still going through the process with the community-owned land, which is going to involve consulta previa, and that's a process that we're ready for. We've done the community consultation, we've done the reports that the government needs, and the characterization reports and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that we can have the permit on the private land by the end of the year. That would set us up to start drilling on the south side in Q1 of next year, testing the mega gold anomaly in the La Jolla silver system.
Okay, interesting. And can you give me an update on political update if you don't mind? Because again, Peru's had a sort of bad stick for the last, for a few years now, and we've got Pedro Castillo, allegedly some associates of his, or some alleged associates of his, have found themselves in a sort of sticky position. I'm not quite sure how far it's gone, but they've been, I don't know if they've been arrested or accused of certain things. So what's happening there? Are we going to be seeing a new president anytime soon?
Yeah, there's the latest news that I've seen coming out of Peru is there's yet another investigation against Castillo. I believe this is the 6th ongoing investigation, most of those dealing with corruption. A number of his associates and family members have been detained during these investigations. It relates to corruption. It relates to awarding contracts to friends and family, that type of thing, from his home province. So there's lots of that type of corruption, and this is what everyone feared, is that with Pedro Castillo, even though he won his election on an anti-corruption campaign, the first thing that started happening when he came in was corruption. So I think that's very clear now that Pedro Castillo was the wrong choice. On the positive side of things, though, there hasn't been any negative knocks against mining. There's been social protests, and those social protests are the result of essentially the fact that nothing is improved for the poor people in Peru that was promised by Castillo. So they think their lives were going to change. They haven't changed. And so there's a lot of, it's really anger at the government for nothing having improved in their lives, and them taking that out on some of the mining companies. A lot of those issues have been dealt with. Production is returned, or projects have returned to development status. We're in a part of Peru where mining has been part of the culture for a long, long, long time. We're in an active mining district. We've worked really hard on our ESG program, working with the communities. We have multiple different aspects to our ESG program. It's not just an annual gift or a medical campaign or helping them with agriculture and that type. We have multiple different initiatives underway We know that an operating mine in our project is going to need local support from a labor standpoint, as also, from just a social acceptance standpoint. And we need them and they need us. So it's been a very good win-win situation for us in our project.
Brilliant. Well, Dave, appreciate the update. I guess we're looking for permits, and we're looking to see what you actually do with that money and what comes out of it. So appreciate the update. Stay in touch, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.